MSW Media.
News with swearing. Daily beans, daily beans. Daily beans, daily beans.
Hello and welcome to the Daily Beans for Thursday, March 19th, 2026. Today, Senator Rand Paul is a no on Markwayne Mullin's confirmation as DHS Secretary, but John Fetterman's vote could move it forward. Russia is sharing satellite imagery and drone technology with Iran. Cuba's electrical grid has collapsed after weeks of U.S. oil blockades. A U.S. Marine Corps investigation reveals details of their live fire mishap over the freeway during the No Kings 2 events. The Idaho House has passed an anti-trans bathroom bill that carries a 5-year prison sentence. Lieutenant Governor Juliana Stratton wins the Democratic Senate primary in Illinois. And inflation soars in February, according to the latest Producer Price Index report. I'm your host, Allison Gill. Hey, everyone. Happy Thursday. So happy it's Thursday. Shit, S-H-I-T. Dana's out today. She'll be back soon. You can get info and tickets to her shows and gala events over at danagoldberg.com. Go see her live and in person. Want to give you an update. Welcome to all our new patrons. We are taking away the $3 Patreon level, $3 per month, $36 a year, at the end of this month. Now, anyone who locks that in before March 30th gets to keep it for life. So if you've been thinking about becoming a patron, you can do it now at patreon.com/MullerSheWrote. You'll be able to get this show ad-free and early, plus all of the invites to our live events, VIP pre-sales, galas, and stuff for just $3 a month. After that, our lowest tier starting on March 31st, it's going to be $5 a month. And with the $5 a month, you not only get the Daily Beans ad-free and early, you also get Beans Talk ad-free and early. And you'll also get Unjustified ad-free and early. So that's the $5 level. And that's going to be our minimum level going forward. But again, if you lock in that $3 a month now, you can keep it for life until you get rid of it. So today in the show, I'll be joined by Executive Director of America Votes. Her name is Daria Dawson. And then on Monday, we're going to talk to the co-executive director of Indivisible about No Kings 3, and that's Ezra Levin. Before we get into the hot notes, there was a confirmation hearing for Department of Homeland Security Secretary Markwayne Mullin. He's awful. He's horrible. He could be worse than Kristi Noem. And it didn't really go well for him. We're going to go over some clips on the Beans Talk today. If you haven't checked out the Beans Talk, you can get it in audio format wherever you get your podcast. Just search for Beans Talk. It's free. Or you can get it in video format over on MSW Media's YouTube page. Just Google that. You'll be able to find it. But the thing is, we probably have a link in the show notes for you as well. But this hearing for Markwayne, Rand Paul, who is the chairman of the Senate Committee on Homeland Security, he took Markwayne to the cleaners today and said afterwards, told Fox News he's a no vote. And normally, because of the committee and the very small margin of majority that the Republicans have in the Senate, they would need all the Republican votes if they voted along party lines to get him through. But with Rand Paul as a no, that's in jeopardy, except John Fetterman is on the Homeland Security Committee, and he seems like he's ready to vote yes. And so that could actually advance it to the full Senate. So that's where we are right now. We'll see whether or not Rand Paul pulls the vote. He can do that, but he said that he probably wouldn't, as long as he can get some more information about this super top secret trip that Markwayne says that he took back in 2016. Again, we're going to go over these clips on Beans Talk, but it didn't go well for him today. But like I said, because of John Fetterman, he might make it through the confirmation process. All right, everybody, we have a lot of news to get to. Let's hit the hot notes. Hot notes. All right, first up from the Wall Street Journal, a few weeks back, we asked who is benefiting from Trump's war of choice in Iran. And it seems that the likely answers are panning out just as we expected. This is from the Wall Street Journal, like I said. Russia has been expanding its intelligence sharing and military cooperation with Iran, providing satellite imagery and improved drone technology to aid Tehran's targeting of U.S. forces, our U.S. troops in the region. Now, Russia is trying to keep its closest Middle Eastern partner in the fight against the U.S. and Israeli military might and prolong a war that is benefiting Russia militarily and economically. The technology provided includes components of modified Shahed drones, which are meant to improve communication, navigation, and targeting. Russia's also been drawing on its own experience using drones in Ukraine, offering tactical guidance on how many drones should be used in operations and what altitudes they should strike from. Now, Russia has been providing Iran with the locations of our U.S. military forces in the Middle East, as well as those of its regional allies. That cooperation has deepened in the early days of the war, with Russia recently providing satellite imagery directly to Iran. That's according to two people familiar. And I got to wonder if Tulsi Gabbard has a role in this. Now, the assistance is similar to intelligence the U.S. and European allies have given to Ukraine in recent years. In the Gulf, Moscow's aid is believed to have helped Iran with recent strikes on U.S. radar systems in the region. Those strikes have included an early warning radar for the Terminal High Altitude Area Defense, or THAAD system in Jordan, as well as other targets in Bahrain, Kuwait, and Oman. The Kremlin did not immediately respond to requests for comment. As satellite images can provide more granularity about the details and movements of both land-based and sea-based targets to help targeting before the strike, as well as damage assessments following the strike. Quote, if there are details in those images that the Russians are providing, say, of specific types of aircraft, munition sites, air defense assets, and naval movements that have intel value to the Iranians, that would really help them. That's Jim Lawson. He's a visiting research fellow at King's College London and former CIA analyst who specialized in the Iranian military. The data Russia is providing comes from a fleet of satellites that provides intelligence for military operations. The fleet is managed by the Russian Aerospace Forces, better known under its Russian acronym VKS. Iran has had greater success targeting the U.S. and Gulf state military assets in the war than it did in the last 12-day war that we fought with them. The country's strikes using drones to overwhelm radar before a missile strike look very similar to Russia's tactics in Ukraine. Quote, Iranian targeting in the Gulf has been more focused on radar and command and control. That's Nicole Grajewski, a professor at Sciences Po, a research university in Paris. She went on to say Iran's strike packages have come to strongly resemble what Russia does. Now, U.S. Special Envoy Steve Witkoff, who led the U.S. negotiations, which I put in air quotes, with Moscow, said Russia denied they were giving Iran intelligence aid to their strikes, and Trump has said he believes Moscow might be aiding Iran a bit. But he says in a phone call that they said they didn't, so he believes them. Quote, nothing provided to Iran by any other country is affecting our operational success. That's a White House spokeswoman, Olivia Wales. The United States military has struck more than 7,000 targets and destroyed more than 100 Iranian naval vessels, leading to their missile attacks decreasing by 90% and drone attacks decreasing by 95%. Russia and Iran don't have a formal military alliance, but Tehran is Moscow's closest partner in the Middle East. Russia is one of Iran's top military suppliers. The relationship has had its ups and downs since the fall of the Soviet Union, but it has deepened greatly since Russia launched its invasion of Ukraine. The two have formed commissions and work groups to share military and defense learning. Military delegations regularly visited one another while their soldiers trained together, and Russia even built and launched one of Iran's most recent satellite systems. So had the Republicans just fucking funded Ukraine and defeated Russia, that would have helped. It would have, prevented Russia from learning better tactics over the span of years on how to deploy drones. And then Russia supplying satellite images of our troop locations. And all the while, we're lifting sanctions on Russian oil so that they can start making hundreds of millions of dollars again to not only fund the war against Ukraine, but to continue to help Iran kill our soldiers and destroy our assets in the region. That's just beyond. That seems so treasonous to me. Anyway, next up from CNN, U.S. President Donald Trump mused over whether he would have the honor of taking Cuba on Monday, the same day the communist-run island's electricity grid suffered its first nationwide collapse since the U.S. effectively shut off the flow of oil to the country. Quote, all my life I've been hearing about the United States and Cuba. When will the United States have the honor of taking Cuba? That's a big honor. That's what Trump said in remarks from the Oval Office. Went on to say, taking Cuba in some form. Yeah, taking Cuba. I mean, Whether I free it, take it, I think I can do anything I want with it. Wow. Pressed if a U.S. military operation in Cuba would mirror January's capture of Nicolas Maduro in Venezuela, or if it would look more like Iran, Trump told reporters, I can't tell you that. Now, Trump's comments come as Cuba was once again plunged into darkness through a power failure. There were no faults detected in the electrical units operating at the time of Cuba's grid collapse. The state-owned grid operator said that Monday, adding it was working to restore power across the country. By Tuesday afternoon, the power had returned to roughly 55% of customers in Havana, as well as all health centers across the capital. Service had also been restored in the western and central eastern regions of the island after some power plants were reconnected. Still, the recovery's been slow, as is typical with blackouts of this magnitude. Nationwide power outages have been reported frequently over the past few years. Cuban officials have previously attributed them to U.S. economic sanctions, though critics have also faulted a lack of investment in the island's ailing generation system. Cuba, a nation of roughly 10 million people, heavily relies on oil for electricity generation. Washington's effective blockade of fuel shipments has worsened the country's energy crisis, causing more intermittent power cuts, a rationing of medical supplies, decrease in tourism. Fuel prices have skyrocketed so much that gas can be as much as $9 a liter on the unofficial market, meaning it costs more than $300 to fill up a gas tank, which is more than most Cubans earn in a year. This is just completely inhumane, this oil blockade. The president of Cuba said the impact of the blockade is tremendous. It is most brutally manifested in these energy issues. This causes anguish among the population. Now, here at home, inflation is soaring. CNBC reports that wholesale prices rose sharply in February, providing another sign that inflation continues to percolate, even aside from rising energy costs. Aside from that, the Producer Price Index, a measure of pipeline costs that producers receive for their products, increased a seasonally adjusted 0.7% on the month, the Bureau of Labor Statistics reported Wednesday. Excluding volatile food and energy costs, the so-called core PPI increased 0.5%. That's excluding food and energy. Inflation is still up. Economists surveyed by Dow Jones have been looking for increases of 0.3%, not 0.5%. And for the all items index, prices rose faster than 0.5%, the 0.5% pace in January, but the core increase was less than 0.8% for the prior month. Now, on a 12-month basis, headline PPI inflation, 3.4%. That's the most since February 2025, while the core was at 3.9%. Wow, according to the BLS. 3.9%. Federal Reserve targets inflation at 2%. Stock market futures slipped following the report. While Treasury yields were higher, future traders pushed out the next Fed interest rate cut until at least December. Now, the surge in PPI came due in large part to a 0.5% increase in services costs, something that the Fed would not welcome. Policymakers have attributed much of the run-up of inflation to tariffs, which would not show up as much on the services end. Portfolio management fees, a key driver for services costs with the PPI measurement, were up 1% in February. Similarly, prices for securities brokerage, dealing, investment advice, and related services, that's up 4.2%. Goods prices up 1.1% on the month. Food prices up 2.4%. Energy up 2.3%. But within that food index, fresh and dry vegetables are up 49%. The report suggests pipeline inflation pressures remain persistent, particularly on the services side, complicating the Fed's path as it weighs how long to keep interest rates elevated. The report comes with inflation worries accelerating amid the fighting in the Middle East. U.S. and Israel continue to strike targets in Iran, causing energy prices to surge. Oil's trading around $100 a barrel. That's up more than 70% year to date, 70%. Now, none of the inflation data so far has captured the price increases associated with the war. So that 2.3% increase in energy costs, that's before what's happening in the Strait of Hormuz. A report last week indicated consumer prices rose at 2.4%. So, I mean, it's just going to be so much worse next month. Now, later Wednesday, the Fed released its interest rate decision, saying it's not going to raise them. And Jerome Powell, and I'll play some of these real quick clips for you over on the Beanstalk, said that the reason that inflation sucks and that job numbers have been net zero over the last 6 months are because of tariffs Trump's tariffs, Trump's immigration policy, and Trump's war with Iran is complicating it. It's all Trump. Anyway, next up, this is from the Idaho Capitol Sun. The Idaho House Monday widely passed a bill to criminalize willfully entering a public or government bathroom and changing rooms designated for another sex. This bill would effectively block transgender people from using their preferred public bathroom in Idaho, expanding on the state's transgender bathroom ban in public schools. House Bill 752 would create a criminal misdemeanor and felony charges for people who knowingly and willfully enter a bathroom or a changing room designated for the opposite sex, with some exceptions. The bill would apply in government-owned buildings as well and places of public accommodations like private businesses. A first offense would carry a misdemeanor, punishable by up to a year in prison. A second offense, 5 years, and a felony. Now, bill sponsor Rep. Cornell Rasser, a Republican from Sagal, told House lawmakers the bill is about protecting women and girls. Quote, it prevents discomfort and voyeurism and assaults while preserving single-user options and narrow exceptions so no one is denied access for emergency aid. Chris Mathias, a Boise Democrat, said the bill could endanger transgender people. It absolutely will. Quote, the truth of the matter is, and I know a lot of people don't want to say it, but forcing people who don't look like the sex that they were born with, or transgender folks, forcing them to use other people's bathrooms, is going to put a lot of people in danger. The House passed the bill 54-15. 6 Republicans joined the House's 9 Democrats in opposing the bill. Man, there are 60 Republicans in the state House and 9 Democrats. In committee last week, the bill was opposed by some law enforcement groups, in addition to several transgender Idahoans. The Idaho Fraternal Order of Police opposes the bill. They told lawmakers in written testimony that the bill presents significant practical enforcement challenges for law enforcement officers in the field. How the fuck do you want us to enforce this shit? Quote, officers responding to a complaint would be placed in the difficult position of determining an individual's biological sex in order to enforce the statute. Idaho Fraternal Order of Police President Brian Lowell said, in many circumstances, there's no clear or reasonable way for officers to make that determination without engaging in questioning or investigative actions that could be viewed as invasive and inappropriate. The cops are against this bill. The Idaho Sheriff's Association requested that lawmakers amend the bill to require that people who could be prosecuted under the bill be first offered a chance to leave the bathroom when asked. Now, Racer, the bigot who brought this bill, said he's addressed these issues, but his bill has not been amended since law enforcement's opposition last week. This is the bill that passed as it is. Now, it outlines several exceptions, including to give medical assistance, law enforcement assistance, and if a single-user facility is the only facility reasonably available at the time for the person's use. The bill now heads to the Senate in Idaho for consideration. To become law, Idaho bill must pass the House and the Senate and avoid a governor's veto. A bathroom ban bill enforceable through lawsuits passed the House a month ago, but that bill, House Bill 607, has not received a committee hearing in the Senate, so we'll see what the Senate does. Next up from the Associated Press, do you remember when the military decided they were going to fire howitzers across the I-5 freeway during No Kings 2? Well, there was an investigation, and this is from the Associated Press, like I said. Quote, a 1 in a million malfunction during a live fire demonstration over Camp Pendleton last October led to a misfire that rained shrapnel on Interstate 5, striking 2 CHIPS, California Highway Patrol vehicles, and that's according to the U.S. Marine Corps investigation. An artillery shell exploded over the highway that serves as the main corridor between Los Angeles and San Diego. It's the only corridor. During a celebration of the 250th anniversary of the Marine Corps, attended by J.D. Vance and Pete Kegseth. Nobody was hurt, and investigators ruled out any negligence or wrongdoing by Corps members. The day before the event, Gavin Newsom called the planned demonstration with live artillery dangerous and unnecessary, and he ordered the I-5 to be closed during that demonstration. And that closure drew condemnation from the White House and other Republicans, and the Marine Corps said the exercises wouldn't endanger motorists. Well, they did. In a 666-page report dated December 19th and first reported Monday, this thing's been done since December, The Marines concluded there's no definitive answer to why an M795 high-explosive round detonated early at an altitude of about 1,480 feet during an October 18th demonstration. Such a premature detonation is beyond reasonable expectations and should not have happened, but it did. That's their conclusion. Organizers plan to fire 60 rounds of live artillery in 5 minutes over the freeway, using 6 howitzer weapons, according to the report, but a round in the first volley of shots failed and detonated early, and the rest of the demonstration was canceled. The first shot. Days after the malfunction, 26 California U.S. House members and the state's 2 senators sent a letter to Kegseth asking who decided to shoot live artillery over the freeway and how authorities prepared for the safety risks. Newsom announced the highway closure in a statement after practice rounds were fired a day ahead of the celebration. The governor described live fire exercises as a show of force meant to intimidate Trump's opponents, thousands of whom were demonstrating at No Kings protests in and around San Diego that day. Quote, firing live rounds over a busy highway isn't just wrong, it's dangerous. That's what Newsom wrote at the time. The Marine report concluded several factors could have contributed to the malfunction, including the howitzer guns being too close together when they fired, and the potential presence of anomalous electromagnetic energy in the vicinity. You'd think howitzers, they've been around for a minute. We've had howitzers on this earth for a minute. I would imagine the Marine Corps and anybody else who uses howitzers knows how far apart they have to be in order for shit not to explode over your own troops. Call me crazy. I would also figure there would be a way to test for the presence of anomalous electromagnetic energy in the vicinity before you fired these things. Maybe what do I know? Quote, what was different from the thousands of times before this event, employing the same shell-fuse combination, weapon systems, and highly trained Marines? We don't have an answer. That's what the report said. Fantastic. No Kings 3 is on March 28th. Let's see what kind of live round ammunition bullshit they have planned for that day. The first No Kings, they did a flyover. Second No Kings, howitzers over the freeway. Near the city that had one of the biggest No Kings 1 turnouts in the country. Anyway, I don't think it's a mistake, but I don't have any proof. But I feel like I'm taking crazy pills sometimes. Next up from NBC, Lieutenant Governor Juliana Stratton has won the Democratic Senate primary in Illinois, vaulting ahead of 2 members of Congress with a boost from Governor J.B. Pritzker in this very expensive race. Stratton defeated Reps Raja Krishnamurthy and Robin Kelly in the race to succeed retiring Democratic Senator Dick Durbin, taking aim at members of her party in D.C. for not standing up to Trump. Stratton will become the 6th Black woman to serve in the Senate ever, and it would be the first time 3 Black women served in the Senate at the same time. Stratton managed to overcome a significant financial disadvantage. Krishnamurthy, who became a prolific fundraiser during his 5 terms in the House, spent $29 million on ads in the primary. Kelly's campaign, $1.4 million. Stratton, $1.1 million. Krishnamurthy, $29 million on ads. Now, Stratton had served in the legislature before Pritzker tapped her as his running mate in 2018. She was endorsed by Pritzker in the crowded primary, as well as Senator Tammy Duckworth. Pritzker, who is also a billionaire and potential presidential candidate in 2028, helped fund Illinois Future PAC, which spent $14.9 million on ads in the race, boosting Stratton and attacking Krishnamurthy. Stratton also faced nearly $10 million in attacks from Fairshake, a group funded by cryptocurrency executives. So the people beat out over the crypto money. A spokesperson for Fairshake declined to comment on its spending in the race, but it could be a connection to measures Pritzker signed into state law last year that established new crypto regulations. Pritzker and Stratton want to regulate crypto, so crypto dumped millions of dollars into this to help Krishnamurthy, who's a friend to crypto. While Stratton won, she was also endorsed by Senator Elizabeth Warren, who supports crypto regulations. Stratton cast herself as the most progressive candidate in the race, supporting policies like Medicare for All, $25 minimum wage, abolish ICE. Stratton dismissed concerns that policies like abolishing ICE could be problematic for the Democratic Party and easily weaponized by Republicans. She said, no, Quote, anyone who wants to talk about what can be weaponized, how about the fact that the federal government's being weaponized against our own citizens? That's the real travesty here, she said in a recent interview. Stratton has also said she would not support Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer to continue as the party's leader in the chamber. Quote, I'm the only candidate in this race that has made it clear I'm not going to support Chuck Schumer to lead the Democratic caucus, Senate caucus, because that's not what people are looking for right now. They want someone who's going to fight. We need a fighter and not a folder. Stratton is expected to be in a strong position to win the general election in November in the historically Democratic state. She will face former Illinois Republican Party Chairman Don Tracy, whom NBC News projected as the winner of the Republican Senate primary. Former Vice President Kamala Harris won Illinois by 11 points in 2024. And from the Times, 4 Democratic House primaries in Illinois on Tuesday delivered mixed results for an array of super PACs tied to the American Israel Public Affairs Committee, AIPAC, that spent more than $20 million to try to influence the outcomes. The pro-Israel lobby group and its allies became a focal point in several closely watched contests in safely Democratic districts, where the party's nominees will be heavily favored in November. 2 of the victors, Melissa Bean, former U.S. Rep., and Donna Miller, Cook County Commissioner, were buoyed by a barrage of cash from groups linked to AIPAC. But 2 other winners, Daniel Biss, the progressive mayor of Evanston, and LaShawn K. Ford, a state legislator, triumphed over candidates favored by AIPAC. So it's split 2-2. In the House primary that got the most attention, groups tied to AIPAC spent $5.8 million backing Laura Fine, state senator who favored no restrictions on military aid to Israel, and opposing Mr. Biss, the grandson of Holocaust survivors and a critic of the Israeli government who has stopped short of terming Israel's war in Gaza a genocide. But with Ms. Fine trailing in polls and Kat Abu-Ghazaleh, a progressive influencer much more critical of Israel, on the rise, the PACs appeared to shift strategy, boosting a long-shot progressive named Bushra Amawala, who many saw as a closing effort to dilute Ms. Abu-Ghazaleh's support. In her concession speech, Ms. Abu-Ghazaleh assailed the millions in AIPAC spending dark money smear campaigns, institutional power tipping the scales. And Mr. Biss, at his victory party, AIPAC spent a lot of money against him as well, proclaimed that the 9th District is not for sale. In a social media post, AIPAC alluded to the mixed nature of its results in Tuesday's elections, acknowledging its presence in the contest and seeking to portray the outcome in a positive light. Quote, while disappointed that Laura Fine did not prevail, voters rejected 2 anti-Israel candidates in this race, Kat Abu-Ghazaleh and Bushra Amiwala. That's interesting because they gave money to boost Bushra Amiwala. Quote, we're especially proud to help defeat Abu-Ghazaleh, who centered her campaign on attacking Israel and demonizing pro-Israel Americans. Now, I thought yesterday we'd be on the lookout for some polling shenanigans by Republicans, like we saw in Texas. However, Illinois is a blue state. Their shit's run by Democrats. So it's a nice, smooth primary as far as actually getting out and voting at the polls goes. So that's what I think we're going to see as we go forward. Problems stirred up by Republican secretaries of state in red states and Republican legislatures in Republican election boards, and things going fine in the blue states. So have your head on a swivel if you're in a blue dot in a red state, and make sure you are registered and make sure that you vote early when you can. And we're going to talk about all of that in just a minute, right after this quick break, because I'm going to be talking with the executive director of America Votes, Daria Dawson. Stick around. We'll be right back.
After these messages, we'll be right back.
This episode is brought to you by IQBAR, our exclusive snack and hydration sponsor. IQBAR is the better-for-you, plant protein-based snack made with brain-boosting nutrients to refuel, nourish, and satisfy hunger without the sugar crash. And right now, IQBAR is offering you an exclusive deal, 20% off all IQBAR products, plus get free shipping. Just text Daily Beans to 64,000. If your days are packed and you want options that are easy to reach for and amazing and healthy and clean, IQBAR has the lineup you're looking for. Get their ultimate sampler pack. It's especially useful because it lets you try everything. You get 9 IQ bars, 8 IQ Mix hydration sticks, and 4 IQ Joe sticks. Those are the morning mushroom coffees. So you can figure out what works best. It's amazing. This is my go-to, rally, go into a protest pack, this sampler pack, because I bring some of the IQ mix sticks with me. I can just dump them in some bottles of water that they give away there while you're out there marching. I bring a couple of bars with me and hand some out to, friends who look like they could use a boost if they're getting a little hungry. And then in the morning, to gear up for it, I get 200 milligrams of clean caffeine with their IQ Joe sticks. And they have so many amazing flavors. What I also appreciate is the variety across the bars, the drink mixes, the coffee sticks. There's plenty of flavor options to choose from, including seasonal varieties, which I love. And that flexibility makes it easier to work IQBAR into a busy day without overthinking it. I like being able to choose based on what I need in the moment. Some mornings, IQ Joe is the right way to start the day. Other times, an IQ bar makes more sense when I need something quick and easy. Everything's delicious. Everything's clean. You're going to love it all. And right now, IQBAR is offering our special podcast listeners 20% off all IQBAR products, including the Ultimate Sampler Pack, plus free shipping. So to get your 20% off, text Daily Beans to 64,000. Text Daily Beans to 64,000. That is Daily Beans to 64,000. Message and data rates may apply. See terms for details. Hey, everybody. Welcome back. Honored today to speak again to the person who leads day-to-day management of America Votes, the organization, and overseeing all department heads and implementation of strategic objectives. Please welcome the executive director of America Votes, Daria Dawson. Hi, how are you?
Allison, it's so good to see you again. I do have to tell you one thing that I always tell people when I introduce myself is I dare you to mispronounce my name, and it's as Daria, not the MTV show. So it's always a good introduction, even though.
Did I say Daria?
You did.
Did I do that the last time too?
No, I think you had it. I think you said it the correct way the last time, but it's a good way to laugh and just be like, haha.
It's a good icebreaker. You're ready for it.
Very good icebreaker. Yeah.
Yeah. All of us Gen Xers, who.
Right. I was Daria up until that show came out.
Yeah, I bet.
And then I just had to be like, let me, I'm from the South. So we say it flat, the flat A, dear. So,
all right. Now I know, Daria. And when we have you back on in 4 months, I hope I
Don't worry. I'll remind you.
And I'm telling you, my brain is so clouded with everything that's going on. We have so many things. Their whole authoritarian playbook is to flood the zone with shit.
Yeah.
Now we're seeing things, I want to talk to you about voting rights, the SAVE Act, because when I saw those Dallas returns come back and what the Republicans did to voters in Dallas County, I was like, this is just a little taste of what we're going to see in the primaries, particularly in red states. We didn't have those kind of shenanigans in Illinois this week because, the state is run by Democrats. But talk a little bit about what you're seeing, what you're preparing for, because when I had Jocelyn Benson, Secretary of State, Michigan on, she told me that they are now running tabletop exercises for worst case scenarios in the midterm elections, like the Pentagon coming in and snatching up voting machines and vote tabulator tapes and things like that. Talk about what your organization is talking about on the inside about these massive, once again, threats to our voting rights.
Yeah. And I appreciate you having Secretary Benson on your show to talk about that, one of our strongest secretaries of state in the country. And little known fact, she and I share the same birthday as Libras. So we definitely believe in the scale of justice. Yeah. So I would say from America Votes, as we are the coalition of organizations that are closest to the communities on the ground that are closest to the voters, we are absolutely dusting off what we consider our spread out the vote theory case that we did in 2020 and ensuring that we're talking to voters about their options as early as possible. We cannot rely on an election day strategy. We were really good about that in 2020 and 2022 and utilizing the entire electoral calendar. And in most cases, voting starts in September in a lot of our targets. So how do we prepare for those necessary pivots? Because I live in Washington, D.C. I walk outside my building every day and there's National Guard right there on the corner. That's the reality of that we're living in right now. And I feel like what we are seeing is you have one party that is pro-democracy and one party that is about taking away democracy. And when we say about democracy, what we're actually talking about is making sure that voters have a choice, a say-so, a voice, a vote, and who it is that is running their day-to-day lives. And what's happening is that people don't want to run. One side of the spectrum does not want to run on their issues. They want to take back power. They want to keep power. They want to restrict other people's power. If this were just about vote on the issues, one man, one vote, okay, let's let the voters decide. But now what they're doing is basically creating anarchy and martial law and restricting who can have a say-so, who can have a choice, who can have a voice in elections. And that is anti-democratic. And I don't mean democratic as in party, but like democracy, what this country was founded on. For some of us, we celebrate this year, you're hearing it, America 250. Well, the reality is that a lot of us, a lot of our ancestors, a lot of people did not have a voice 250 years ago, right? It was a certain group of specimen that was able to have a choice, that was able to have a vote. So that is actually what we're seeing. We're seeing these rollbacks. We're going to talk about this legislation later, but it is really right now about making sure that voters have the information that they need and are educated and know what all their options are to safely and effectively cast their ballot during that electoral window in which November 3rd, I think that's the right date, is the last day to vote, to cast your ballot.
Yeah, I think it's important that we frame it as not election day, but the last day to vote. And, let's dive into the SAVE Act because, they talk about, aside from the anti-trans culture war BS that they're putting in there to throw the LGBTQ community under the bus, they claim that the SAVE Act is to safeguard the integrity of elections. Now, to me, and here's the difference, I think, between us and them, safeguarding the integrity of elections is to expand and protect voting rights like we wanted to do with the John Lewis Voting Rights Act. To them, it's to oppress the vote and to shrink it and to pull that ballot further out of our reach. Talk a little bit. John Thune just opened debate this week on the SAVE Act in the Senate. And, we're doing everything that we can to call all of our senators and tell them to vote no on this SAVE Act. Talk a little bit about what your organization, again, America Votes is a coalition of multiple organizations. Talk about that and what you're doing to oppose this just brutal assault on our voting rights.
Yeah, so I would say the great thing about the organization being a coalition is that our partners, part of the coalition, are absolutely engaging their constituencies, their memberships about doing those things that you're just saying, like that part of the voter engagement process when it comes to holding your elected official accountable, whether or not you voted for them. If you live in their area, you are their constituent. So as you reach out to them, as you talk to them about why this is a restrictive ballot measure, that is the work that our organization and our partners are doing right now. Again, educating people as to this is not about, as you just said, protecting integrity. It is about restriction and being really clear about what that means and how voters in America will be impacted by this. It sounds all well and good. Oh, of course you should show that you are an American citizen to vote. But what are the things that we actually have to do that? This is going to impact women, particularly if a woman has taken on the last name of their spouse. Are you walking around all day with your marriage license because your birth certificate and your license may not necessarily match up? Are we thinking about generations or like folks like my grandmother or my great-grandmother who may not necessarily have been born in a hospital and may not have access to an actual certified birth certificate? These are ways to just restrict people's voice. And I would say right now it is about education, education, education. This here, it is, as you said, adding on those like poison pills to legislation to try to hold people accountable, to force them to basically throw Americans under the bus. The transgender community are Americans. Again, pitting ourselves against each other as those wedge issues to basically rile people up and agree to this when, again, if folks ran on the issues, if these elected officials ran on the issues, let's let the people decide, right? But they know that their issues aren't resonating. They know that they have not fulfilled their promises. So the next thing to do is to actually only ensure that a particular set of people are able to cast their ballots. That is not a democracy. No. So right now is the time And I am so grateful for this coalition and everyone who is represented as a part of the coalition to educate, hold accountable, and then educate folks, hold accountable those that are on the Senate floor right now with the Say That, but also educate and hold accountable when it comes to not only the upcoming primaries and upcoming November elections, but even the next election. Because as long as we are able to utilize our power, no matter what they try to say, there will be elections in this country. And that is our opportunity to hold accountable and then also move on to the next accountability piece, because voting is not just one election. It is about every opportunity to hold whoever it is that's in power accountable. Elect them, hold them accountable. Re-elect them, hold them accountable. It's a never-ending cycle.
Mm. Yeah. And, they wouldn't spend billions of dollars to try to suppress your vote if your vote
correct
had no power. I mean, we just, by 5 votes, elected the first Democratic mayor of Boca Raton, Florida in 30 years.
Uh-huh.
The votes definitely matter. And if they really cared about voter ID, they would institute a program to ensure that every single person, free of charge, got that ID before they instituted a rule that it had to be used.
If I could do a final point on that, Allison, I was a history major growing up, and, I was raised by 2 educators. I've always been taught my history. And what this reminds me of are things that would prohibit people who may have looked like me from voting. Like coming up with asinine laws like the poll tax, thank you beat me to it, like the poll tax, like the grandfather clause, like how many jelly beans are in this jar in order for you to vote. And I appreciate you laughing at that, but that's real.
Yeah.
Where people would go to a polling location and they would give them these random answer this question on the spot to basically utilize your voice in this country. Yeah. And here's the thing that I have to remind people, particularly folks my age and younger, of if it didn't matter so much, why are they doing everything in their power to restrict it? That deserves a response.
It does. And I also hate that it's up to us to walk over broken glass to get all this stuff done to vote. Now, we're going to talk about this. Let's talk about it now, because you reminded us that November 3rd is the last day to vote, and that we should try to get out of this mindset of election day is election day. We should do our early votes. For the first time in my life, and I'm in California, when I voted this last time, in 2024, I actually walked my ballot to a ballot drop box because I was afraid to put it in the mail, because I'm afraid, that somebody's going to screw with the mail. This administration being in charge of it. I never had to think about those things before. But, it reminds me of, when people tell women, instead of saying stop assaulting women, it's like, well, don't wear this, carry pepper spray, don't walk in the dark, put your keys in between your hands, and don't wear these clothes, and don't drink. And, I have to make all these adjustments. And that's what we're looking at right now. We're looking at a scenario where we have to make all of these adjustments just to have our voices heard because of the vote suppression on the other side. So talk a little bit about the coalitions that you're working with on, let's dive deeper into ensuring that your vote is counted by early voting when you can, like all of those steps that people need to be prepared to take and to help others do the same.
Yeah. I would say right now, the biggest key is education. And the great thing about this ecosystem is everybody has a lane, and we have to trust each other to ensure that everyone is doing their job effectively and just feel comfortable in who's doing what. So the education piece this year is going to be so important. And I'm grateful to folks like Secretary Benson and Secretary Aguilar and our attorneys generals and our governors, everyone who, particularly those state constitutional officers. I think we sometimes forget how important their roles are when it comes to election administration. And that's another part of what they're trying to do, federalize elections, right? So that the federal government has a say-so on how state elections, because everybody, when you register to vote in your particular state of residence. That's who administers the election. So it's really important when we think about these down ballot elections of who is in charge of administering your election in your state, in your county, right? So one, that education.
That's what we saw in Dallas County versus Chicago.
Exactly. You made that point, right? And they're going to come and like you said, Dallas County, who saw that coming? The day folks are going to vote, They go into their polling location, what they think is their polling location. They're being told that it's not their polling location. Polling locations have changed. This is going to be their playbook. They're going to try everything. I appreciate you saying how like you dropped it off, you went and dropped it off at a drop box. We've heard stories about drop boxes being set on fire. They have actually made voting, so objective. Like I can't even think of the word. They're basically like, we don't want your vote. We don't care about your vote. So, and we don't have your vote. Like,
it's like an
we don't care that
obstacle
you voted.
course.
We're going to get rid of it. Like, thank you. That's the word I'm looking for. Is making voting an obstacle. Again, why? So back to your point about like the coalition and what folks are doing. I think it is essential and necessary. And I'm grateful that everyone right now is thinking about what does it look like. We have certain folks who are thinking about what does it look like to cast your ballot the day of. There were rumors about like National Guard being at polling places or ICE agents being at polling places in California during that primary. What does it look like for your deadlines for mailing in your ballot? If you do that, is it safe to mail in your ballot? Do you just drop it off as opposed to like ride to the polls? Do we do like, rides to your county's board of elections and drop off your ballot, with the receipt, just things like that. Just it's ensuring that folks have all the information. And I would say right now, particularly with communities of color, the thing that you can do right now in March of 2026 is to ensure, if you've registered to vote, is to ensure that you are still registered to vote, because they are purging people from voter rolls in real time. Make sure that you are still registered to vote. Make sure that your family, your mama and them, everybody who is registered is still registered. And if not, do the process again. It is an obstacle, but I promise you, and this is what Allison just said, that is an obstacle by choice. It is by design, because they do not want you to have a say-so as to who is in power to control or empowered to pass legislation, sign legislation, appoint judges. It's all connected as it pertains to how you live your life in the great United States of America.
Yeah, we have big family and friend get-togethers, and whenever I do that, I always take a half an hour out of that get-together and have everybody check their voter registration.
Check your voter registration status, yeah.
And more often than not, somebody's like, "Hey, I'm not registered to vote anymore." That's really weird, and then we can correct it as that happens. Well, we appreciate all the hard work that you're doing on this education piece. It's so very important. Can you tell everybody where they can find information, where to support your organization, and give us the website and all that, so the listeners of this program know exactly where to go to help join in this fight?
Yes, to learn more about America Votes, you can go to americavotes.org. But when it comes to your voting and your status and your registration, ourvote.com, always a good place to go to your Secretary of State's website when it comes to checking your voter registration status, your county board of elections when it comes to checking your polling location. This is the time now to basically come up with your voting plan. Come up with your voter registration plan. We are less than 200 days from voting in this country. My team has the exact number. It might be 170, which is crazy. But it's not about November 3rd. It is about September. And a lot of places that we live where voting actually starts, where ballots are sent to voters or are available for folks to do vote by mail or early voting. And we have to, it is imperative that we are strategic about when and how we cast our ballot safely and effectively for this 2026 midterm.
Yeah. Get your voting plan together. Help others get their voting plan together. That 175 days or however, 170, 200 days, whatever it is, that is going to be here before you know it.
Yep.
And the sooner the better. Thank you so very much for joining us today. Really appreciate it. Maybe we'll have you back on after we've gone through some of these primaries and we get closer to September.
I would love that, Allison. Thank you so much. Thank you for all the work that you're doing to contributing and sharing the message, sharing information. It is so crucial, particularly right now in this moment. So thank you for having me.
Yeah, no problem at all. And thanks for the giant, amazing coalition that you've put together, the biggest I've seen. Appreciate you very much, everybody. We're going to be right back with the good news. Stick around. Everybody, welcome back. It's time for the good news.
Good news, everyone.
Good news, good news. And if you have any good news you want to send us, it can be big, it can be small, it can be recent, it can be in the distant past, it can be somebody else's amazing story that you want to share. As long as it brings a smile to our face, you can send it in. Also, your good trouble recommendations. We love getting those. We've been getting so many of those. All of the Leguminati out there doing the good trouble. If you want to share what you're doing, please send it in to us. And you can also maybe give a shout out to somebody, a loved one, spouse, partner, small business in your area, nonprofit you want us to know about, self shout out, tell us why you're awesome. We love those. Send it all to us. dailybeanspod.com, click on contact, and all you got to do to get your stuff read on the air is pay your pod pet tariff. And that means attach a photo of your pet. We can try to guess the breeds in your shelter pup if you want. If you don't have a pet, send an adoptable pet in your area or a photo of a random animal on the internet. Bird watching pictures, which can be an actual bird, or it can be you flipping the bird to a Trump building. We have so many of those and we love to share. They always make me smile. You can send family photos, baby pictures, your baby pictures, literally anything you want that you think will bring a smile to our faces. Show us what you're making and creating. We have so many amazing creators that listen to this show. Send that to us. Whatever it is, a meme, a picture of a sunset, something you've painted, send it to us at dailybeanspod.com and click on contact. All right. First up, good trouble. Hi, ladies of the beans. Virginia is in early voting to counteract the nonsense Republicans are pulling to redistrict the mid-cycle. The Justice for Democracy PAC is sending out super misleading mailers, including the one pictured below. But even more harmful, another quote from Abigail Spanberger that was taken out of context. I consider myself to be a very informed voter, but this made me do a double take. Please tell fellow Virginians to be sure to spread the word that we need to vote yes and vote early. Vote yes on Virginia use of legislative congressional redistricting map amendment, April 2026. So let's see here. Return your vote by mail ballot now. Vote no on gerrymandering. That's how they're wording it. The power brokers in Richmond are marginalizing our communities by putting power over people. Wow. And vote no on gerrymandering. The politicians in Richmond only care about one thing, power. The plan is devastating. This new voting district scheme, 0 Black majority seats, 0 Hispanic majority seats. Wow, this is all just evil. Evil. Oh, God. Yeah. Well, hopefully, every single Virginian I know is smart enough to not fall for that shit. But thank you for sending this in and bringing it to our attention. All right. First up from Karen in the good news column, pronouns she and her. Happy 89th birthday to my mom. I went to Florida last week to visit her, and we had the unveiling of my dad's tombstone, which was a lovely ceremony. A former liberal, my mom is one of those wonderful people who unfortunately got hooked on Fox News. She doesn't particularly enjoy political discussion where we point out gasp facts. I laughed when she said she didn't like Facebook because they're lying to her all the time. I said, I thought you liked being lied to since you watched that Fox News. So while I was there, unbeknownst to her, I went into her Gmail account and unsubscribed her from some right-wing news organizations that send her mail on a regular basis. I also signed her up for some conservative anti-Trump newsletters. I didn't hit her with too many subscriptions all at once, but yes, I do plan to subscribe her to the Daily Beans when the time is right. I guess it's pretty passive-aggressive, but every little bit helps, right? My pod pet tariff, of course, is my precious girl, Callie, who loves to cuddle and keep me sane in these crazy times. She just turned 15, and I enjoy every moment with her. Looking at her crinkly ear, which was damaged a few years ago due to an ear infection, it reminds me you can still be wonderful and adorable, even if you feel a little beaten down at times. Thanks for all you do, AG and DG. Love you both. Look at this sweet little baby. She looks very soft, and I love her carrot toy. Anyway, Karen, thank you so much for that. Next up, Granty Bean. Good morning, Beans Queens. First, thank you for being in my ears first every day. I just can't deal with any news besides you and NPR. As I was making my coffee this morning while listening to the Daily Beans, obviously coffee time is beans time, I pulled a mug down and decided it needed an upgrade. It's even work-safe-ish. Looking forward to wearing my quote-unquote suit at No Kings and using my mug at work. As for my pet tariff, you've had Mr. Charlie H. Chibi Chops, and yes, the H stands for Horatio Harry Henry. in his rainbow bow tie. But now you get my gargoyle, Sir Calcifer Calvin, Cal Bunny Fur Boy, the softest, most possessive of his human 9-pound, bosses his 15-pound brother around, orange baby. Thank you again, Granty Bean. My pseudo-niece, Helene, gave me the name at age 3. Bonus pick protest suit. All right, so here's oh, nice. Look at that. Crab protesters, fascists. I love this. This is so great. That's wonderful. Label makers are the best, aren't they? There's the beautiful cat. Hello. And there's the frog suit. Incredible. Both sides choose non-violence. Very fantastic. And the lobster. The frog and the lobster. Just amazing. Absolutely fantastic. That's a great sign too, by the way. Thank you so much for that. I love all these photos. Next up from Anonymous, no pronouns. Hi, AG and DG. I live in Loudoun County, Virginia, less than a mile away from the Orange Menaces golf course. My blood boils anytime I hear a motorcycle coming through the neighborhood. I was lucky enough to join the impromptu street party that erupted near the entrance on November 7th, 2020. Of course, he was on the golf course that day when it was announced that Joe Biden won the presidency, and it was a beautiful and joyful celebration where many of us in the neighborhood gathered to greet him with our loud whistles, pride flags, Black Lives Matter signs, pussy hats, blue wave signs, and yelling, "Pack your shit and go," as his motorcade left the course on his way back to D.C. I am so looking forward to the next impromptu street party that will undoubtedly be even louder and even more joyous when we get the other news. You know, wink, wink. This morning, I filled out and returned my Virginia mail-in ballot. I voted yes to fair elections. A yes vote levels the playing field in the upcoming congressional elections to protect our democracy. It is a temporary emergency exception that ends in the 2030 census when Virginia independent redistricting systems automatically resume. So this is a good trouble reminder to my fellow Virginians to vote hell yes on or by Election Day on April 21st. More information about what is at stake can be found at virginiansforfairelections.com. For my pod pet tariff, I've included an image of a clever re-rendering of the flag for the Commonwealth of Virginia. Sic semper tyrannis, we all know this, is a Latin phrase meaning thus always to tyrants, meaning that tyrants should expect a downfall as a consequence of their actions. Fun fact, Virginia is the only state flag with a boob. Tits out, tyrants down. Thanks for all you do, ladies. Yeah, that's so right. Look at that. Sic semper tyrannis. I think we had an episode called Sic semper tyrannis. I like that re-rendering. That's very nice. Next up from Will Anderson, a respectful he, him. Hello, Beanstresses. I want to share an amazing experience I had taking an intro into blacksmithing class at the Steel Yard in Providence, Rhode Island, which is an art-driven educational community. Taking a class there was both uplifting and a great way to meet like-minded artists while building my personal skill set. I recommend taking a course or a workshop as a way to beat the doom and gloom out of these insane times. It was friendly and inclusive. It helped me as well as supporting artists who are struggling in this economy. Very good times indeed. Enclosed is a picture of my co-pilot, Tater, T-8-R, who is 100% blank. If Toto was a blonde, that would be Tater. Oh, is Tater a Cairn Terrier by chance if he's a Toto dog? Oh my God, he's so cute. Yes, yep, there it is. Cairn Terrier under the blackout bars. That is amazing. I low-key love blacksmithing stuff. I took a metals class, I think it was just metal shop actually, in junior high, and I took it again in high school. And I watched that show. What's it called? Forged in Fire. I absolutely love that show. I'm like, it's okay. I love blacksmithing. I've been wanting to take a blacksmithing class. Don't have a lot of them here in San Diego, but I bet we do out in East County. So I'm going to look into it, Will. Thank you so much for that. Next up, Anne, pronouns she and her. Dear Magical Beans Queens, just following up on the MAGA Academy Awards that were held in D.C. prior to the Oscars. It was a beautiful sunny day in D.C. for the event, but a bit windy. Hope you enjoy. The artist activists supported by Free DC put so much work into it. The YouTube video is available here. We're going to have a link in the show notes. Thank you, Anne. I'm also submitting 2 photos, one of FIFA and another of Stephen Miller walking the red carpet, quote unquote, after the event. Okay, so FIFA is the amphibian Antifa, I'm guessing. This is so amazing. Look at this. There's the red carpet. And there's Stephen Miller. That photo is insane. Oh my God. Thank you so much for sharing that. I just have the biggest smile on my face right now. Thank you all so much for sending in your good news. I really appreciate it. Thanks for hanging out with me solo. Thanks to Daria Dawson for all the work that she's doing. We'll be back in your ears tomorrow. It's Fugelsang Friday, so John Fugelsang will be joining me. And then, like I said, Monday, I'm talking to Ezra Levin, co-executive director and co-founder of Indivisible. I'm looking forward to that conversation. We've got a lot of tips for No Kings 3. And just some incredible numbers, by the way, coming in already about the size and the magnitude of No Kings 3. I'm very, very excited, and I look forward to that conversation. Dana will be back soon. Everybody, thank you so much. I will be back in your ears tomorrow. Until then, please take care of yourselves, take care of each other, take care of the planet, take care of your mental health, and take care of your family. I've been AG, and them's the beans.
The Daily Beans is written and executive produced by Allison Gill, with additional research and reporting by Dana Goldberg. Sound design and editing is by Desiree McFarlane, with art and web design by Joelle Reeder with Moxie Design Studios. Music for The Daily Beans is written and performed by They Might Be Giants, and the show is a proud member of the MSW Media Network, a collection of creator-owned podcasts dedicated to news, politics, and justice. For more information, please visit mswmedia.com.
MSW Media.